I'm at a complete loss where to start. Where should I start? Where could I possibly start? I really don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I'll start with some news. That's the idea. I think that's an even better idea than last time I started with some news. Okay. BBC article. Tim Berners-Lee calls for free internet worldwide. Oh yeah, that's a new idea. By Jonathan Fielday's technology reporter, BBC News. The inventor of the web has called for everyone to have access to his creation for free. Tim Berners-Lee said that he would like to see everyone given a low bandwidth connection by default. Oh, that's nice. What, 2k a second or something? 200 up to 20 bytes a second, free. He said the web could be instrumental in giving people access to critical services such as healthcare. I don't get it. That makes no sense. You dial up a surgeon and he like electronically heals you by remote. Bizarre. Currently, he said, just 1/5 of the world population has access to the web. Oh, what a tragedy. I want them all caught up in the spider web. I want them all trapped like flies, wriggling and giggling around. What about the other 80%? He asked the audience at the Nokia World Conference in London. Oh, the last sort of place you'd expect to find a talk like that. I would like to see people enrolled in a cheap data plan by default. I would like them to get it for free. Sir Tim said the rise in mobile networks around the world meant there was now an opportunity to connect everyone. What about these people who have a signal but are not part of the web? Who are not part of the information society, he said. Can't you just forget about them? I initially assumed you should get them water first. No, don't worry about food or water. Get them a bloody internet connection and they can look at free porn. That's what people want. That's at the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Didn't you realise that? Free porn. It's even more important than food or shelter or clothing. You should get them healthcare, and then it is the luxury of getting the web. He said, but it's actually not like that. So yeah, he's quoting sort of like paraphrasing from Maslow's hierarchy of needs there, and then he's all like twisting it around. And he suddenly realises he's had a David Icke sort of revelation, where he's realised that people aren't really interested in food or water or healthcare. They just want internet porn. But it is not actually like that. The web can be pretty instrumental in getting their masses to healthcare. He said that the resulting healthcare would be different to that experienced in Western countries, but it would offer a step change in many regions of the world that had none. Yeah, so I mean, if you live in the middle of the theoretical desert in Africa, then yeah, you definitely want the internet because you really need to know that the nearest doctor's 500 miles away. Yeah, that's far more important than actually like getting any water. There is no AIDS vaccine, so what are you going to do about it, motherfucker? He asked. Getting that message across in their own tongue on the web is something that isn't happening now. But I've done some crazy cartoons with stick figures, and they'll explain it all, regardless of your language. He said access to the web could allow people to... This is it, he's reintroducing the web, like, you know, oh, I'm the inventor of the web, so now after 20 years, I'm going to tell you how to use it. Quite clever. I'm doing a proof of concept here. It could allow people to create their own communities and share their own information about health, agriculture and business. And this guy is just like somebody set up, so he's like, oh no, internet had nothing to do with the military, no, it was just some genius, yes, resident genius, yeah, random genius we had no control over, and he released it, and nobody ever thought of anything like that at all. There's no sort of other methods of communication any time before, and it's all totally new and strange and wacky, and it's really helpful that 20 years after the internet came into existence, now he's telling us we can create our own communities and share information, when that is what any version of the internet or intranet or any network is based on. It's the actual basis of it. It's the actual definition of it. So it's just craziness. Crazy talk! Not being part of the information society is a really important thing. Oh, he wants to get out. He wants to get out of the grid. I'm trapped in this web. He said that even a low bandwidth connection offered for free via a mobile phone could make a difference. At the moment, he said, connections were too expensive and were often taxed by governments. He suggested that network providers could offer the free connections on the basis that people would become more affluent in the future and would then be willing to pay for more expensive, higher bandwidth mobile services. They will move up when they can, he said. And I think he's lost his mind. He's lost his mind. He's gone back 20 years in the past and he thinks, I'm introducing the internet to the people. He admitted that when he first created the web, all by himself, just span it out of his arse, it would have been hubris to suggest that everyone had access to it, but he said there were now compelling arguments for its benefits. I would like everyone to think about it, he said. His comments about the value of universal access to communications on the web echo those of the head of the International Telecommunication Union, the UN body that oversees telecoms. Dr. Hamadoun Toure, Secretary General of the body, recently told BBC News that access to information should be a universal human right. I'm so glad they've agreed on that 20 years after the internet was introduced. However, their views are at odds with many development agencies which agree that the web can help accelerate development but believe critical services such access to fresh water should be a priority. It should read, but believe critical services such as access to fresh water should be a priority. Fears! Sir Tim also used his speech to outline his stance on other concerns he has about the future of the including privacy and net neutrality, the principle that ensures that all web traffic is treated equally regardless of the type or origin. We assume that when you look up a web page, that you can get any page, because that is the way it has always been, and that is why the web has flourished, he said. Of course, a lot of companies would like to limit the pages you get. Government companies, yeah. For example, he said a firm that sells streaming movies may like to slow down access to other people's movies. He said some governments also threaten the principle. Well, they can't do that, can they? That's against capitalism. Oh, you just provide. Well, you can't literally slow it down. You can't literally step on their feet. You have to get around it by providing fast downloads. He's talking strangeness. The issue has recently been the focus of intense debate, particularly in the US, where some network providers advocate tiered services in which certain traffic can be given priority over the net. Well, I suppose, yeah, fascistic sort of capitalism, you can do it. You can like slow down access to other people's movies by cutting the cables on the other company's connections. But he's just coming up with a really wacko example. They argue at the rise in web traffic, particularly for bandwidth intensive services such as web video, which has placed an expensive burden on their networks. This writer likes missing out words in their sentences. I keep having to add them. The discussions recently prompted Google and Verizon to publish a plan that would ensure the principles are upheld on fixed-line broadband, but take a much lighter approach to the mobile net, where bandwidth is tight and data management issues are more acute. The more moment you let that neutrality go, think what you lose. You lose the web as it is, that you can click on a link and go anywhere. I think some committee agreed that he should be the inventor of the internet. I don't know if he even knows what's been happening for the last 20 years or so. Okay, next exciting one. Oh, it's a Rents.com article. Obama declares another national emergency where none exists. Well, Not exactly. In fact, he renewed for the second time the Bush administration's 9/11 one, a White House press release saying, "Letter from the President on the continuation of the national emergency with respect to certain terrorist attack." Section 202D of the National Emergencies Act, 50 U.S.C. 1622D, provides for the automatic termination of a national emergency unless, prior to the anniversary date of its declaration, the President publishes in the Federal Register and transmits to the Congress a notice stating that the emergency is to continue in effect beyond the anniversary date. Consistent with this provision, I have sent to the Federal Register the enclosed notice stating that the emergency declared with respect to the terrorist attacks on the United States of September the United States of September. It does say that. 11, 2001. United States of September 11. It is to continue in effect for an additional year. Everybody's forgetting their grammar. The terrorist threat that led to the declaration on September 14, 2001 of a national emergency continueth. For this reason, I have determined that it is necessary to continue with it after September 14, 2010, the national emergency with respect to the terrorist threat. In fact, no threat existed 9 years ago or today. Shock horror. Declaring one, however, lets Washington maraud globally and at home, committing state terror with a machete and a Nazi. It's the only kind that matters, given America's destructive power and intent to wage it as part of the nation's permanent war agenda. Peace for this country is anathema, a topic to previous articles. I'll see that bit. It's linking to other articles. It waffles on. Houston Press article, "The Man Who Sued the Pope." It's from quite a while back, but so what? It's Wednesday, April 21st, 2010. Whatever. 5 years ago, Houston attorney theologian Daniel Shear. Oh yeah, I think I remember that name. Although I think of Daniel Sereda or something. Watched the results of the papal conclave at home. Intellectually, he knew what the dirty gay smoke puffing out of the Sistine Chapel's chimney signalled that Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger would soon be announced as a new supreme Maggot of the Roman Catholic Church. The walls of Daniel Shear's River Oaks area office are still adorned with his theological degrees from Belgium's ancient University of Louvain Seminary. But Shear says the Roman Catholic Church he once solemnly vowed to serve no longer exists. In 1971, Shear looked forward to a lifetime of serving the church as a deacon. Here he is still a seminarian and in Paris with a devout Catholic friend who insisted he wear a collar for the picture. Now, as the white-haired Pope battles a seemingly endless series of priestly sex scandals, Shear says he is still trying to get his head around the belief oh dear, that he and his counsel, Terry Khan Merritt, set the coronation in motion when they filed a Houston-based sex abuse lawsuit against Ratzinger. According to Shear, the cardinals elected Ratzinger Pope to give him the immunity that would enable him to avoid answering any questions concerning his knowledge about and handling of sex abuse cases in Houston's St. Francis de Sales Church in the mid-1990s. In fact, Shear believes that what he started with the lawsuit may eventually result in the destruction of the entire Roman Catholic Church. Dan Shear, a Formula One driver, a former Catholic deacon, has come a long way from the seminary. Whether that's a long way up or a long way down depends on where today's Catholic Church stands in your eyes. In the last 5 years, Shear has cracked wise about the Pope being gay and a drag queen in front of the Italian Parliament. He got a bishop to declare in open court that it was the church's position that minor children were accomplices in their own molestation. He looked another bishop dead in the eye and told him to kiss his ass. so it's safe to say he evokes strong emotions while expressing his beliefs. In Doe et al. V. whatever, Roman Catholic Diocese of Galveston, Houston et al. Shia and Khan Merritt alleged that a letter then, that's all like legal terms I think, sort of almost like legal company by the sounds of it, alleged that a letter then Cardinal Ratzinger sent to every Catholic bishop on May the 18th 2001 asking for money constituted an international conspiracy to obstruct justice. This official document by the Vatican and Ratzinger, whatever, penned in his role as prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, dealt with official church procedure in dealing with clerical sex abuse cases. Not only did this letter contain the Cardinal's current thinking on the subject, it also cited in a footnote a top-secret 1962 Vatican document Shia would eventually flush out the toilet. This 48-year-old document, informally known as Crimen Solicitationis, considered a smoking gun in some quarters, contains written orders from the Vatican laying bare a system for protecting child molesters. To Shia, Crimen is more than a smoking gun. It is a nuclear bomb! Many churchmen disagree as to the true meaning of Crimen. Still, it's easy to interpret that taken together, Crimen and Ratzinger's letter of May 18th make it plain that Ratzinger wanted these cases handled by the Vatican and only the Vatican. According to Ratzinger's letter, he's like a rat. He sings to rats and he can write. It's amazing. The roles of judge, promoter, and justice notary and legal representative can validly be performed for these cases only by priests. Furthermore, the letter was co-signed by Cardinal Tarcisio Bertoni, who later went on the record as follows. In a matter of opinion, the demand that a bishop be obligated to contact the police in order to denounce a priest who has admitted the offence of paedophilia is unfounded. The letter ordered everyone involved in these cases, everyone, to keep the evidence confidential for 10 years after the victims reached adulthood. I thought you killed them before that. The entire proceedings were to be held under pontifical secret, meaning those who broke the silence to outside authorities could be excommunicated. Every cardinal in that conclave had been a recipient of the May 18 cover-up letter, Shia says, imitating a Vatican clergyman. And because they were all recipients, he says, they were all complicit. In response to Ratzinger sending that letter, Shia and the Texas Secretary of State had already served his Vatican office with papers. The Cardinal was scheduled to appear in Federal Judge Lee Rosenthal's Houston courtroom, or Houston, whatever. I call it Houston, it's easier. What's more, the Pope would be giving his deposition to Shia, who is not just a tough plaintiff's lawyer, but also a former Catholic deacon with 3 postgraduate theological degrees, one of them pontifical, from the University of Louvain, one of the oldest Catholic universities in Europe. I don't think they were too pleased by that prospect, Shia says. But now that he had been made Pope, it would be a cold day in hell before Joseph Ratzinger would darken the rust-streaked doorway of Rosenthal's court. As a newly minted head of state, a fresh sprig of mint, Pope Benedict XVI was now diplomatically immune to American lawsuits. Again, Shia believes that was the whole point behind Ratzinger's election. Okay, just read the next bit. Along with its shops, town surroundings, Sir Francis de Sales was rapidly becoming Hispanicized in the 1990s. That was when Colombian native Juan Carlos Patifio Arango was brought in to minister to the growing Spanish-speaking portion of the SOC flock. and he conducted most of the Spanish masses at the church. His accusers later swore that he was presented to them as a priest, not a mere seminarian. According to court documents in Shia's lawsuit, Patiño Arango would offer to help counsel the boys about sex and masturbation. Topics some mothers don't want to broach with their sons. The suit alleges that these rectum talks escalated into Patiño Arango masturbating some of the boys, oh yes, and performing fellatio on one of them while masturbating himself. Same old story. He couldn't help it. Oh yeah, it's quite normal. Some of the boys said he later threatened them after the facts by telling them that nobody would believe their stories over his, and also claimed that many of the other boys in the class had submitted to his counselling, so they shouldn't feel too bad or abnormal. There's nothing new in that story. Just checking the chat room. And I was going to link that to this one. Papal visit. Thousands attend mass in Glasgow. This is back to today. The other one was April the 21st, I think. Pope Benedict the 16th has celebrated an open-air mass in Glasgow, attended by tens of thousands of people. I saw it on TV as well, a bit of it. About 70,000 people attended the celebratory event in Bellahouston Park, cheering and waving flags. In his homily, the Pope said the evangelization of culture was all the more important in our times. He didn't really say that much. I was watching him, and then it had this woman like come in and sing a choir, but it all seemed to be like he was skiving from actually talking too much. He just looked sort of had his head like nodded forwards, like he was half asleep, sort of like the last one, I think. Earlier, he said he wanted to extend the hand of friendship to the country and urged the UK to resist more aggressive forms of secularism. In his sermon, the Pope said a dictatorship of relativism threatened to obscure the unchanging truth about man's nature, his destiny, and his ultimate good, with some seeking to exclude religious belief from public discourse, to privatize it, and even to paint it as a threat to equality and liberty. He said some more as well. I had to think up these melodies while I do it. Society today needs clear voices which propose our right to live, not in a jungle of self-defense and arbitrary freedoms, but in a society which works for the true welfare of its citizens and offers them guidance and protection in the face of their weakness and fragility, he said. That's probably why he hasn't taught that much, because he knows I have to imitate his voice and try and sing. Popely way, whatever. He also urged the young Catholics of Scotland to resist the destructive and divisive temptations of drugs, money, sex, pornography and alcohol. The Catholic Church in Scotland had hoped to attract up to 100,000 fools to the event, but later reduced the capacity after a slow take-up of tickets. The Pope travelled from Edinburgh, where he was welcomed on his visit to the UK by the Queen at Holyrood House. Holyrood House. It just looks like Hollywood. Hollywood House. On his arrival, the Pope was given a traditional Scottish necktie hanging, whatever, from the Strathclyde Police Pipe Band, as he made a circuit of the park in his Pope-mobile, being pursued by Richard Hawkins. The window of the vehicle was rolled down, and the pontiff blowjobbed a baby dressed in a pink romper suit. First Minister Alex Salmond arrived at the park wearing a tartan scarf and a yellow flower. He sounds like he's dressing like a fag. Well, crowds, yeah. Pink trousers and, and a lovely flowery lavender shirt. Well, crowds waved yellow and white Vatican flags. Britain's Got Talent star Susan Boyle sang the hymn "How Great Thou Art, Maggot" after the ceremony. She has already entertained cheering crowds, many of whom were waving commemorative flags and pilgrim packs with the song "I Dreamed a Dream." The winner of Pop Idol 2003, Michelle McManus, who is from Glasgow, has also performed. Haha. Special contribution. It's the headline. The trip is the first to the UK by a pontiff since Pope John Paul II in 1982. It is also the first to be designated a state visit because the Pope has been invited by the Queen rather than the Church. Earlier, the Queen said the visit was an opportunity to deepen the relationship between Catholicism and the Churches of England and Scotland. She also praised the Catholic Church's special contribution to helping the poorest and most vulnerable around the world. The Pope said he wanted to extend the hand of friendship to the entire UK, not just the Catholic population. He added, "Today, the United Kingdom strives to be a modern and multicultural society. In this challenging enterprise, may it always maintain its respect for those traditional values and cultural expressions that more aggressive forms of secularism no longer value or even tolerate." He makes it up as he goes along. It's amazing. The Pope-mobile, the Pope-mobile, along with the Batmobile, and the Hawking shagging wagon. Then joined the annual St. Ninian's Day parade. St. Ninian, I mean, it's like the Saint of Ninnies, obviously. Despite tight security, police estimated that about 125,000 people turned out to cheer him on. Presbyterians, secularists and other groups in Edinburgh have planned to protest against Vatican policies on birth control, gay rights and abortions. Although police did not report any large demonstrations, small groups from the organisation protest the Pope, the Grand Orange Lodge of Scotland, and the founder of the Free Presbyterian Church, the Reverend Ian Pearsley, now Lord Bandside, turned out in protest. The Pope is due to leave Glasgow, bound for Heathrow, tied up, arriving at 21:15 BST, at 9:15 British Standard Time. Dioceses in England and Wales have reported thousands of unfilled places for a vigil in London's Hyde Park on Saturday, and a beautification mass in Birmingham on Sunday for 19th century Cardinal John Henry Newman. The visit has caused controversy in the UK because of the cost and the scandal surrounding child abuse within the Catholic Church. Got live updates on this one. More stuff about the Pope. Okay, another one. This is in The Guardian. Some 65,000 people have attended a mass given by the Pope in Bellahouston Park, Glasgow. Benedict XVI used the sermon to urge Scottish Catholics to take drugs, money, sex, pornography and alcohol. I'm going to try to do my Italian accent. Which the will intelligence you will bring you happiness, yet these things are destructive and divisive. Speaking to journalists on the plane from Rome this morning, the Pope said the Catholic Church is a moment of penitence over child abuse. In his strongest words yet on the crisis, he said, "It is difficult to understand how this perversion of the recently commission was possible." Benedict told correspondents on board the plane that paedophilia was an illness whose sufferers had lost their free will. Should say the same thing about homosexuality. As expected, not all those lining the streets to see the Pope were happy to see him in the UK. He has been criticised by the Minister and Clergy Sexual Abuse Survivors organisation, while the Humanist Society of Scotland placed billboards between Edinburgh and Glasgow that read, 2 million Scots are good without God. Protesters waved placards bearing anti-papal messages, including the Father Ted-inspired "Down with this sort of thing." The Pope boarded Shepherd 1, the L'Italia jet which bore him to Scotland this morning just before 8 p.m. and is on his way to London. He's due to land at Heathrow at 9:25 p.m. His day tomorrow begins with Mass in the Church of the Apostolic Nunciature, ending at Westminster Abbey. Okay, Press TV article. This is not about the Pope. Gaza poverty worse than Rwanda. A new study has revealed that the population of those living below the poverty line in the Israel blockaded Gaza Strip exceeds the same population in Rwanda. The survey carried out by the Palestinian Authority shows that 63.1% of the 1.5 million Palestinians in the impoverished coastal sliver where Tel Aviv's siege has prevented access to food, fuel and other necessities live below the United Nations defined poverty line. Press TV's correspondent in the enclave Akram al-Sattari reported on Tuesday. This is while the East Central African country has 60% of its populace under the poverty level of approximately 43 cents a day. Oh, that's plenty of money. Let's see what they're complaining about. So, it's just a bit dry on news at the moment. I just can't find that much on it. It seems to be mainly the Pope. I'll carry on reading that one in a second. I'm just going to see if I can find any like really juicy nuggets. Well, that page is dead slow at loading. Israel placed Gaza under an all-out blockade in mid-June 2007, claiming it was cracking down on the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas, which had won democratic elections to rule the Strip a year earlier. They rule the Strip, they rule it. We wear this Strip with pride, they said. By enforcing the restrictions, Tel Aviv both disregarded the group's right to power and found an opportunity to impose more suffering on the rest of the Palestinians. We are talking about the severe economic situation that the Palestinians are facing because there is no industrial zones, no job opportunities, said economic analyst Mohsen Abu Ramadan. Ding dong ling long. More than 10% of gays, mostly children, are physically stunted due to malnutrition, Satari added. Oh no, they couldn't just be like genetically born that way, could they? The Strip is, meanwhile, far from recovering from the full-fledged Israeli war. At the turn of 2009, he's not actually saying that, I just felt like doing that voice again, which killed more than 1,400 Palestinians and inflicted a damage of more than $1.6 billion on its economy. Ramadan Ding Dong Ling Long said that the continuation of the blockade as well as the offensives had destroyed the infrastructure of the devastated Strip. Oh, lots of lovely stuff. I just got to keep on checking that no, that's yesterday's. But okay. It's Wednesday article. Palestinian killed in Israeli air attack. At least one Palestinian has been killed in Israeli air strikes on the Gaza Strip as the acting Palestinian Authority chief and the Israeli Prime Minister prepare to hold their third direct meeting. The others were also wounded in the attack, which was carried out against the Palestinian survival tunnel in Rafah along the Gaza-Egypt border on Wednesday. The tunnels, which link the south of the impoverished enclave to Egypt, have been serving as conduit for vital supplies to the besieged Gaza Strip since 2000 in June, when Israel imposed a crippling blockade on the coastal sliver. The perilous tunnels have been frequently attacked by Israeli and Egyptian security forces. The Israeli army has not commented on the air attack yet. The attack coincided with the third round of meetings between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and acting Palestinian chief Mahmoud Abbas to end the long-running Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The two previous face-to-face talks in the US and Egypt failed to bear results. Still Wednesday articles. I don't get it. I was looking at it's like up-to-date articles. It's supposed to be like latest news, whatever. Latest from Middle East. I clicked on loads of links from there, and there's lots of articles from yesterday. But anyway, Israel. This is Press TV again. Admits killing civilians in Gaza. The Israeli army has admitted that 3 Palestinian men killed in a shelling strike in the northern Gaza Strip over the weekend were civilians. On Sunday afternoon, Israeli troops fired 5 tank shells into the coastal slivers northern city of Beit Hanun near the Erez checkpoint. The attack killed a 91-year-old man identified as Ibrahim Abu Said and his 21-year-old cousin Ismail. The body of Hassam Khalid Ibrahim Abu Said, 16, was later found and handed over to hospital officials. According to Mahan news agency, the Israeli army initially accused the men of being involved in armed activities and claimed they were preparing to launch rockets at Israeli posts near the separation fence. But a report on Tuesday acknowledged that the men were attending to their farmland and cattle near what Israel has declared as a no-go zone along the de facto border when they came under Israeli tank fire. The report claims the 21-year-old Palestinian was seen lifting a loaded rocket-propelled grenade launcher, seemingly aiming it at Israeli forces at the border. The Israeli commander of the Gaza Division, Brigadier General Eyal Eisenberg, told Israel's army radio on Tuesday that an initial probe found that the 3 civilians found a rocket launcher and innocently picked it up. As you do, sort of thing, yeah. Israeli tanks opened tank and machine gun fire on the Gaza Strip on Tuesday, killing 1 Palestinian and wounding 4 others. Wednesday again, Press TV. Blast kills 9 in northern Iraq. 9 Iraqi soldiers have been killed in a roadside bomb attack on the outskirts of the northern city of Mosul, marking the second deadly incident in the day. The incident occurred at around 11 a.m. on Wednesday when a roadside explosion targeted Iraqi troops heading northwest from Mosul in a minibus. AFP quoted an Iraqi official as saying, on condition of anonymity, 6 other soldiers, all members of the Iraqi Army's 3rd Division, were wounded in the attack, he added. I think that's the thing that he was allowed to say anonymously. Located in the province of Nineveh and 250 kilometres to 20 miles north of Baghdad. Yeah, Nineveh was like one of the first cities founded by the Roman Empire, I think. Was it Babylonian? Oh no, it might have been Babylonian. I think that was the second city. Was it Babylon, Nineveh, a few others. But yeah, it's a really old city. North of Baghdad, or yeah, a bit old, depending on what sort of version of history you want to read. Mosul is Iraq's 2nd largest city, which has seen relentless violence since the US-led invasion of the country in 2003. CNN. French Senate approves burqa ban. I thought it was a burger ban. Yeah, French Senate approves burqa ban. Paris, France. The French Senate approved Tuesday a law banning any veils that cover the face, including the burqa, the full body covering worn by some Muslim women, making France the first European country to plan such a measure. The law passed by a vote of 246 to 1, with about 100 abstentions coming essentially from left-leaning politicians. The legislation was overwhelmingly approved by the lower house of parliament in July and will go into effect next spring. French people backed the ban by a margin of more than 4 to 1. The Pew Global Attitudes Project found in a survey earlier this year. Some 82% of people polled approved of the ban, while 17% disapproved. That was the widest support the Washington-based think tank found in any of the 5 countries it surveyed. Clear majorities also backed burqa bans in Germany, Britain and Spain, while 2 out of 3 Americans opposed it, the survey found. A panel of French lawmakers recommended a ban last year, and lawmakers unanimously passed a non-binding resolution in May, calling the full-face veil contrary to the laws of the nation. Given the damage it produces on those roles which allow the life in the community, they ensure the dignity of the person and equality between sexes, this practice, even if it is voluntary, cannot be tolerated in any public place, the French government said when it sent the message to Parliament in May. The law imposes a fine of €150, that's $190, and or a citizenship course as punishment for wearing a face-veiling veil. Forcing a woman to wear a niqab or a burqa will be punishable by a year in prison or a €15,000, $19,000 fine, the government said, calling it a new form of enslavement that the Republic cannot accept on its soil. The French Council of State has warned that the ban could be incompatible with international human rights laws and the country's own constitution. The Council advises on laws, but the government is not required to follow its recommendations. The ban pertains to the burqa, a full body covering that includes a mesh over the face, and the niqab, a full face veil that leaves an opening only for the eyes. The hijab, which covers the hair and neck but not the face, and the chador, which covers the body but not the face, apparently are not banned by the law. You're not supposed to post letters through them either. However, a 2004 law in France bans the wearing or displaying of overt religious symbols in schools, including the wearing of headscarves by schoolgirls. The Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life estimates that France has around 3.5 million Muslims, or about 6% of the population. France does not keep its own statistics on religious affiliation of the population, in keeping with its laws requiring the state to be strictly secular. Okay, I'm just checking some other stuff. Mildly interesting. Okay, US poverty rate rises. It gives me the headlines and I'll click further. In its own time. That's just craziness. Come on. Okay, poverty in the US spikes. Finally got it. New York, CNNmoney.com apparently. The nation's poverty rate has jumped to 14.3% in 2009. It's the highest level since 1994, and the 43.6 million Americans in need is the highest number in 51 years, record keeping, the government said Thursday. The Office of Management and Budget defined the poverty threshold level as less than $21,954 for a family of 4 in 2009. and $10,956 for an individual. The poverty rate increased for all racial groups except Asians. The jump, reported as part of a regular annual Census Bureau report on income, poverty and health insurance, was not unexpected. The US economy went through a very rough 2009. The Census Bureau released data that illustrates just how tough 2009 was, President Obama said in a statement. Even before the recession hit, middle-class incomes had been stagnant, and the number of people living in poverty in America was acceptably high, and today's numbers make it clear that our work is just beginning, the President added. Many Americans lost their jobs during 2009. The unemployment rate jumped from 7.7% at the beginning of the year to 10.1% by October, before inching down to 10% the rest of the year. Poverty increased less than many experts were projecting beforehand. David Johnson, chief of the Bureau's Housing and Household Economic Statistics Division, said that the rate would have been higher, except that it declined substantially for elderly Americans, falling to 8.9% from 9.7%. He also said increases in employment benefits brought many people out of poverty. The income used to calculate poverty status includes earnings, workman's compensation, unemployment insurance. Oh, that probably affects her. Some people. Social security, veterans payments, pensions, interest and dividends, and just about every other source of cash. This got a strange headline. Why I took Social Security early. Whatever. It does not, however, include capital gains, so theoretically millionaires could qualify as poor if they live solely by selling off investments. Non-cash benefits such as food stamps or subsidized rents also do not count as income. Poverty is expected to continue climbing, reaching a high of about 16% over the next decade. According to an analysis by Isabel Sawhill and Emily Monnier of the Brookings Institute, the Washington-based think tank, the researchers say that as a result, another 10 million Americans, including 6 million children, will be in poverty. The recession makes finding jobs very difficult, and it has hit low-income families especially hard, said Sawhill. The census report said that the poverty rate for children under age 18 grew faster in 2009 than it did for the population as a whole, increasing 1.7 percentage points to 20.7%. I'll finish it off actually. Regionally, the South was the poorest area of the country. This makes a change. With a rate of 15.7%, it also experienced the biggest jump in poverty, 1.4 percentage points from 14.3% in 2008. The West had a poverty rate of 14.8%, the Midwest rate was 13.3%, and the Northeast rate was 12.2%. Mississippi is the more poorest state in the nation, with an average of 20.6% of the population earning less than the threshold rate over the past 2 years. Arizona at 19.6% and New Mexico at 19.3% also recorded much higher poverty than the national average. You have to start making the people into burgers. Had to make them into burgers, sell them abroad. New Hampshire at 7.3% had the lowest percentage of poor residents, with Connecticut at 8.3% and Utah at 8.6%, also scoring well. The government also said that the number of Americans with health coverage dropped for the first time since record keeping began in 1987. CNN Justice. There's another CNN article. Police. Man kills self. It says man kills self. Another person after wounding doctor. Oh, that's maybe American English. Baltimore, Maryland. A man who shot and wounded a doctor at the prestigious John Anthony Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, later killed another person and then himself Thursday, police said. I mean, this probably happens all the time in America, but I just sort of grabbed my eye for some reason. The suspect shot a faculty physician at the hospital just after 11 a.m, police said. The doctor was rushed to surgery and is expected to survive, said Anthony Guglielmi, police spokesman. Authorities evacuated part of the hospital after the shooting. When police attempted to isolate the subject, identified as an African American man in his 30s. The suspect later killed himself and another person. Police said, "Oh, it could be another what you got, mind control, killing, whatever they call it nowadays." Related to it, he's going to have psychiatrist. If it turns out he has a psychiatrist, then it's definitely one of those. Well, possibly, definitely. Yeah, the suspect later killed himself and another person, police said. Police said there was talk that the suspect had been holed up with a family member. Earlier, police said officers shot and killed the man, but later said that account was incorrect. The hospital asked employees, visitors, patients and caregivers to stay in rooms or offices until further notice. It said in a statement. The hospital also said it has restricted access to the main hospital building after the shooting. Johns Hopkins Hospital, which first opened in 1889, is part of a $5 billion medical system, according to its website. The facility, which has 982 beds, has consistently earned the top spot in US News and World Report's annual rankings of more than 4,800 American hospitals, placing first in 5 medical specialties, amongst other things. Guglielmi said the doctor, who was not identified, had non-life-threatening abdominal injuries. "It's the best place you could ever be," he said, referring to the hospital. "He's gonna be okay," he said. Okay. No, Rents.com article, so it might be on for it might go on for 58 pages. NATO's Secret Armies by Stephen Lendman. Right, it's not such a good idea when it's 7 minutes to go, but anyway. I'll start it anyway. It might be rubbish. In his book, NATO's Secret Armies, Operation Gladio, and Terrorism in Western Europe, Daniel Ganser described their clandestine Cold War operations run by European secret services, collaborating with NATO, the CIA, and Britain's MI6 and secret intelligence services against a possible Soviet invasion, internal communist takeovers, or others on the political left gaining power. The network included France, Germany, Belgium, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Greece, Luxembourg, as well as politically neutral European countries, Austria, Finland, Sweden and Switzerland. Named Gladio, Latin for double-edged sword. NATO's armies remained secret until August 1990, when then Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti confirmed Italy's participation in testimony before a Senate subcommittee investigating terrorism. General Vito Miceli, former Italian military secret service director, said in process, "I have gone to prison because I did not want to reveal the existence of this super secret organization. And now Andreotti tells Parliament." According to a 1959 Italian military secret service document, these armies had a twofold strategic purpose. Firstly, to operate as a so-called stay-behind group in the case of a Soviet invasion, and to carry out a guerrilla war in occupied territories. Secondly, to carry out domestic operations in case of emergency situations. In Italy, against both the communist and socialist parties, it was claimed they wanted to weaken NATO from within. Italian judge Felice Casson, learning that right-wing terrorists carried out bombings against civilians, blamed them on the left. Neo-fascist Vincenzo Vinciera explaining the scheme as follows. Well, Vinciera, that's it. Yeah. The reason? Well, it's quite simple. They were supposed to force these people, the Italian public, to turn to the state to ask for greater security. This is the political logic that lies behind all the massacres and the bombings, which remain unpunished, because the state cannot convict itself or declare itself responsible for what happened. In 2000, the Italian Senate was more explicit, saying, "Those are massacres, those bombs, those military actions had been organized or promoted or supported by men inside Italian state institutions, and as has been discovered more recently, by men linked to the structures of United States intelligence," meaning CIA mainly. Former director William Colby admitted in his memoirs that covert Western armies were a major CIA initiative begun post-World War II and restricted to the smallest possible coterie. Braveheart is just whatever, he just like wants attention or something. Go somewhere else. I can't be bothered reading you. It's like you just start ranting about yourself. It's so boring. You haven't even got a show. Former director William Colby admitted in his memoirs that covert Western armies, there you go, you got to mention, you little twat, were a major CIA initiative begun post-World War II and restricted to the smallest possible coterie of the most reliable people. It's like, you just like rant, everybody like goes on the show, you think they're Lenny. I mean, grow up. Really, grow a set, in Washington and NATO to keep the initiative secret, or change the drugs you're on, or just kill yourself. That's always more fun. Yet once its existence was confirmed, the EU Parliament drafted a sharply critical resolution saying, "These organisations operated and continue to operate completely outside the law, since they are not subject to any parliamentary control," calling for a full investigation into the nature, structure, aims and all other aspects of these clandestine organisations. I'm just going to block you, Braveheart. I can't be bothered with you. Anyhow, it's 2 minutes ago. Only Italy, Belgium and Switzerland did them. The GHW Bush administration not commenting. Oh, there you go. Woo! Friend.